Actually,
So let
this
me
is
know
just,
when you want me to
uh,
start.
Ismail sir, we record these sessions only for the sake of future reference. For example, if some students contact CSO and he wants to have the recording of this session, so we can share it with them.
Sure, no problem.
I hope that you won't have any issue with the recording, but if you have, so then we can stop recording. Recording is totally with your consent.
Neji, that's perfectly all right. As I think mentioned to you last time, my lectures which I've given at Lung Center of Entrepreneurship are also recorded, and they are also in fact available on the web because they also have a practice of recording it and putting it on the web.
Okay, no, you may initiate the session, please. Thank you very much for sparing time. Please take the
Okay.
mic and
Uh,
you can
okay.
start
Well,
discussion with the students.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. So I am honored and pleased to be asked by LAMS to conduct this session, mentoring session, and they were gracious enough to let me pick the topics. So the topics which I have picked are interview skills and job hopping. So just a brief agenda. First of all, I will introduce myself and then we will go ahead and talk about interview skills and job hopping. What are the do's and don'ts in an interview, and what are the pros and cons of job hopping? Um, yes, what are the benefits? What are the advantages, and what are some disadvantages which you may experience? So, just a brief introduction of myself. I have more than 20 years of experience in corporate organizations, out of which 10 years I've spent in US working in semiconductor industry in various technical and marketing related positions. And then I've been working in Pakistan for about 12 years in various organizations. So, in fact, the reason why I picked job hopping is I shouldn't call it job hopping, but it is in last 12 years. This is my fourth organization where I'm working. So in a way, yes, it can be called job hopping. So I will talk about why I have done that and what are the benefits and what are some challenges which I have faced. Um, I am basically a mechanical engineer. My initial education has been in Lahore. So after doing my bachelor's from UET Lahore, I moved to US where I did my master's in mechanical engineering from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And right after completing my master's, I started working, as I mentioned to you, in a company called Applied Materials, which is a worldwide leader in semiconductor equipment manufacturing. During my stay at Applied Materials, they sponsored me for an MBA as well because my direction was always to move on the commercial side of the business. Although having a master's in mechanical, a lot of people expected me to remain in the technical and the design side. But my interest was always in commercial side, in business development, in marketing, and in general management. So they sponsored me for my MBA, which I completed from Santa Clara University in California. And after that, as I mentioned to you, I moved to Pakistan. My first job was at Descon Engineering, where I was in business development, looking after power and energy sector. Then I moved to a Swiss company called Bueller. They are worldwide leaders in grain processing and also in advanced materials. So I was their country manager for 5 years. Then I moved to ExxonMobil, which is previously ICI Pakistan. So ExxonMobil bought over ICI and kept the paints business only. So I joined ExxonMobil in 2015, and I was leading their industrial coatings division. So basically, all the paints and coatings which goes on automotives, on power plants, in refineries, on steel, on beverage cans. So I was heading their industrial coatings division. And then about a year and a half ago, I joined DIC Pakistan, which is a Japanese company, a joint venture of packages and DIC. And I started as Chief Operating Officer. And recently, I've been designated as CEO for the company. So this is my brief experience. I'm basically have been working in B2B industries and have a deep understanding of different industrial sectors in Pakistan. But one of my passion, one of my desire is to contribute back now to the students and the young generation of Pakistan who are stepping into their careers either for their professional growth as well as for their higher education if they want to pursue their master's, their PhD, or even their bachelor's. So I do help them out. In fact, currently I'm helping my son out who is in A levels and is applying to various universities. So it's a very, very challenging process, but I think it's giving me a good practice to deal with people outside of my house as well. So this is a brief introduction of myself, and we will open the floor for questions towards the end. But if there is something really urgent in between, you can always stop us and ask your question. But my preference would be that we note down the questions and then we can open the floor for questions and answers towards the end. Okay, so let's talk about interview skills. Before we talk about interview skills, I think it is very important to understand the role of the interviewer as well as the interviewee, because both are in a spot where they have to make a quick decision. And it's equally important and critical for the interviewer as it is for the interviewee, because the interviewer has to make a decision in 30 to 45 minutes based on how many candidates they have. So based on such a short time, sometimes it's hard to figure out and judge what the candidate has to offer. But interviewer has to ensure that whatever decision he makes, it's a fair decision and it's without any bias. I was reading some papers and there is plenty of research available that if two candidates are alike in their technical qualifications and their experience, then there is a tendency to choose the candidate who is, let's say, taller. So this is not something which I'm saying on my own. This is based on the research which has been done by various behavioral scientists who have made this conclusion. So one way to remove that bias is to have a structured set of questions which you ask each candidate. But that gets a little monotonous because different candidates have different backgrounds, have different qualifications, different experiences. So asking a certain standard set of questions is sometimes not possible. One way to remove bias is which, let's say if you want to recruit a violinist for your orchestra. So one way to remove the bias is to put a screen between the candidate and yourself, and then you can make a decision entirely on the performance. But that also, is not always a good option to have when you want to have a face-to-face interaction with the candidate.
I was like, okay, I don't know, do some whatever thingy, and then it's like.
So, is that a question or is that just a noise in between?
I think it was just noise. It wasn't a question.
Okay. Okay. So, so as I said, it's very important for the interviewer as well to have an environment where he makes a fair and just decision and removes all of his biases. As for the interviewee, it is also very challenging to express all of his or her skills and their strengths in those 30 to 45 minutes. The key thing for the interviewee should be that they should exhibit confidence and they should remain calm throughout the interview. Because I remember when I was working for Bueller, and I was their first employee here in Pakistan. So one of my target was to build a team over here. So I used to interview at least 8 to 10 candidates in a day, and it becomes very, very tiring. You can only freshen up if you see a candidate who is confident and who is calm. So we will talk about these rules in the next slide. So, okay, what are the main things which you need to consider, or which you need to look at when conducting an interview? One thing, as I just mentioned, that the interviewer is meeting a lot of candidates throughout the process. If he wants to recruit for one position, then he at least should be meeting, in my opinion, 6 to 8 candidates. In some cases, it can be more. So interviewer is meeting a lot of candidates. So interviewee has to show that this is the most important interview of his or her life, because unless and until the interviewee shows the interest, the interviewer can easily lose interest in the candidate, because remember that if you have made it this far to the interview process, you are already shortlisted. You are among let's say 6 or 8 candidates out of, let's say, 20, 40, 50, whatever pool of resumes they have received. So if you have reached this far to the interview process, that means you are already shortlisted. So company is interested to know more about you. They already know about your qualifications. They already know about your experience, or at least they already know what is written on your resume. So it is very important for you to highlight what is not written on your resume. So if you are talking about your achievements, you just don't want to talk about your achievements. You also want to talk about how you achieve those targets, because it's not possible to capture everything on a resume, which should not be more than 1 page if you are a fresh candidate, or at the most 2 pages if you have some experience. So don't talk about your achievements. Yes, do talk about them, but very important to highlight how you achieve those targets, because that is something which will differentiate you from the rest of the candidates. So the 2 points over here which I've talked about is, you have to show enthusiasm, you have to show your interest in the position. And secondly, it is very important for you to highlight the critical and the key parts of your education, as well as the experience which you have gained over the period of time. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, a very important point. There is a reason why I've written this up over here, is to dress up. Obviously, now I don't want, or we don't expect people to dress up in their wedding dresses or dress up really fancy, but it is very, very important for you to look sharp on the day of the interview, because as soon as you walk in, the interviewer will make a first impression. And as you all know, that the first impression leaves lasting impression. So very, very important. This is something which usually the millennials ignore, or somehow don't think it is important, because of the culture which is being proliferated out of Googles and Yahoos and Apples, where these things are not considered. But over here in Pakistan, to be very honest, these things are still these things still make an impression. I'm not saying this will be a deal breaker, but if the 2 candidates are exactly the same, then the person who's looking sharp will have an edge over the other candidate. So another important point is research on a company. Sometimes, especially for fresh graduates who are just getting out of university, they are just excited to be invited to an interview, because their key aim and key target is to get a suitable opening, suitable position. If you are not going for your own business or for your own company, then you are definitely looking for attractive position in a good organization. But most of the people ignore the fact that if they are invited to an interview, they believe that, okay, this is it. I can go and just talk about my qualification, my projects, which I have completed in school, and I will be good to go. Very, very important for you to go through the website of the company, at least bare minimum, go through the website of the company. I have had interviews where I have asked students, have you even opened the website of the company? And their answer is plain no. So that does not leave a good impression at all on the interviewers. So please do open the website of the company you are interviewing for. If you are applying for a sales and marketing position, it will be beneficial for you to know what is the market share of the company, what are the key products they are selling, what are the USPs, and what is the standing of this company at a basic level. I don't expect, or we don't expect students to know up to the, that this company has 30% market share, this company has 40% market share, but at least you should know the competition, you should know the market, what are the different players in the market. So that will help a lot. If you are applying for a finance related position, then it is very important for you to have an idea about the financials of the company over the last 3 to 5 years. What is the top line of the company? What is the bottom line? What is the growth pattern? What are their margins? What is their return on sales? Has it improved? Has it not improved? And if it has improved, then it gives you an opportunity to ask question to the interviewer as to what are the reasons why this has improved. And in fact, I remember 2 years ago, I had an interview, and the top line of the company has not improved that much, but the bottom line has improved drastically. And I asked this question to the CFO of the company, and he was generous enough to explain to me that the company installed their own power plant. So due to that, their energy cost came quite down, and that helped in improving their bottom line, despite the fact that their top line has not grown that much. Another research which you should do, in my opinion, is don't just, you shouldn't just be aware of the industry in which you are applying, but you should also be interested, or you should have an idea about the end customer. This is mainly for B2B companies. So let's say if I am interviewing to a company which make automotive parts, so I should not only be aware of the automotive parts industry, but I should also be aware of the automotive industry, because that's the end customer for the automotive parts. So I should know who are the key players in the automotive industry, what are their market shares, what are their strengths. I remember I gave an interview to a very to a big US company. I can take the name GE, and this is one of the questions which I was asked, and I'll be honest that I was not prepared for this question. But if you don't know the answer, you can just say, rather than taking a wild guess, my preference would be just say, sorry, I don't know about this. But from my experience, I can tell that it will help you if you are in a B2B industry, not only know about the company you are interviewing for, but also you should have some knowledge about the end customer of that industry. That will help you a lot. So these are a few of the do's which I can highlight. There are several others, and you can have research on the web, or you can have later on sessions, one-on-ones with your peers, advisors, or even myself, and we can talk in detail about that. Okay, so let's talk about the don'ts. Make sure you have no distraction during the interview. It leaves a very, very bad impression. The reason why I have written here, turn your phone off in red. Please, please, please do that, because it will leave a very bad impression, unless and until you have a very close relative, very sick, very ill, he's in ICU. But in that case, my suggestion would be, please do not appear for the interview, because you will not be in the right frame of mind to answer. You can excuse, people understand. If you tell them that some of your close relative is in bad shape, they can reschedule your interview. But if you are appearing for the interview, please turn your phone off. Don't keep that as a distraction. Another point which I want to highlight over here, do not show desperation during the interview. That yes, very important to show excitement and energy and your interest, but don't come to a desperation level. where it gets very visible for the interviewer to figure out that this person is very, very desperate. Reason I say that is because the companies also are looking for good candidates. So it has to be a good mutual fit. I can tell you that in my current role, I'm looking for a position for last 1 year. There is a specific set of skills which we are looking for, but not very advanced. But there's a position I'm looking for last 1 year, and I still have not been able to find a right candidate. In fact, we were able to find a right candidate. We did give him an offer, and that offer was initially accepted and then rejected. So that's a long story. So I don't want to get into that. But please do understand that the companies are also looking for good candidates. So if you are a good fit, it has to be a mutual good fit. Don't show your desperation. Yes, do show that you are interested, because the companies are always looking for good candidates. So these are some of the don'ts which I want to highlight for an interview. I hope these are very, very basic and generic do's and don'ts. But the reason I want to start with basics is because sometimes we go into so much detail that we ignore the basics. So it's very, very important for us to have the basics checked out, so that we don't create any distraction or any observation in these. So the next topic which I want to talk about is still related to interviews. These are the questions which I believe are very important for everyone to prepare. There are plenty of there are numerous books which are written on the questions in an interview, how to answer them. But again, as I told you, I'm just sticking to the basics. You have to know why do you want to switch. Obviously, you know the position, you know the company you are applying for. So you have to be prepared to answer why do you want to switch. Avoid using negative comments about your organization and your boss unless and until there are ethical issues, because that usually does not go well. You have to talk about your experience, your education, and how you are a good fit for this organization, and how you can contribute to increase and grow the top and the bottom line of the company. So if you talk about these things, as I mentioned, this is my fourth job here, and I was asked this question in each and every interview. And after the first interview, I was prepared, and I always had an answer based on the research I have done on the company and based on the position. So please do think about this. Excuse me. Next question you should be looking at it is where do you see yourself in next 3 to 5 years? Basically, the companies the reason why they are asking this question is they are looking for if you have your long-term plan set up. Definitely, if you are just out of university, it's a little hard for you to answer this question, because your main objective right now is to get into the professional life and gain some valuable experience by working in a good organization. But over here, you can talk about if you are on the technical side, if you are in engineering side, you can talk about whether you want to grow your career in technical side or you want to switch to commercial side. If you are in finance and sales and marketing, then you can definitely talk about that you want to learn the basics, professional traits of these specific fields, and then you want to grow in these fields. But do have an answer to this question as well, whether you are a first-time candidate or you are experienced for 5-6 years. And then, excuse me, do talk about your strengths and weaknesses, because this is one question which usually everyone asks, that what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. Basically, the interviewer is trying to figure out how well you know yourself. Have you at least figured out during your college days or during your last work experience, what are you good at and what have you done about it? and what are your weaknesses, and what are you doing about to fix your weaknesses, because everyone has a weakness. Don't shy away from highlighting one, even if you don't know clearly whether you have one or not. Pick one and talk about it, and tell the interviewer that this is what I believe my weakness is, and this is what I'm doing to fix it. So very important that you should have an answer to this question as well. So this is a little bit about the interviews and interview skills. Very basic, but as I said, I wanted to intentionally highlight the basics because these are the things which we sometimes ignore, and especially for students who are fresh out of university, it's very important for you guys to know the basics. Okay, so now let's hop into job hopping. Okay, so job hopping, what do we mean by this? I've met people throughout my life in US, in Pakistan, even in Southeast Asia, because I've traveled there a lot, to Japan, to Singapore, to Taiwan. I've seen people all around who have stuck with one company throughout their career, which in my opinion is excellent, is great. There are multiple CEOs of various companies who have been with one organization. So it's not that you don't have a career path if you stick to one company, but the culture is I believe shifting, where it's very rare now for people to stick with one company. I can give one example with ExxonMobil, which I mentioned was previously ICI. And when it was ICI, people used to join ICI and leave after retirement. And plenty of examples. And even when I joined ExxonMobil, I saw at least, I guess at that point, it was 50-50. 50% of the people were still there who were from the old ICI days, and this was their first job, and they've been sticking to that. But the remaining 50% were the young lot who has switched and who has moved around. So that culture is changing. And now when companies are looking for senior executives, they prefer people who have diversity of experience, of maybe different industries, of different roles, because that gives you an all-round experience. But if you're switching and if you stay within a company is only for 2 to 3 years, then that is something which is definitely not recommended, and that also does not go well in your search for a new position. But my advice to you will be, if you are applying for if you are getting into a job and it's your first job, do stick there for at least 4 to 5 years, because that will build a good base for you. If it's a good organization, unless and until it's a complete mismatch, you will find out in 3 to 6 months. In that case, I think it's okay to leave. But then if you get into an organization which you believe is a good fit, your values, their culture matches with you, and this is your first job, at least bare minimum stick with them for 5 years. That will help you in building up your professional traits and building up your values, building up your culture, and it will help you a lot. And employees should work with their managers to provide them. If after 4 or 5 years, I'm not recommending that you should start looking for a new company, but you should start having a conversation with your manager, with your HR, that look, I love this organization, I'm having good career progression, but I want to switch my role, and please give me an opportunity to move. Because one of the strengths of some of the big organizations like ICI was they had several businesses. They had soda ash, they had polyester, they had life sciences, they had pharma, they have paints. So that's why if you go back 30 or 40 years ago, people used to stick with these organizations because they would get diversity of experience by staying within the same company. So if you have an opportunity like that, nothing beats that. And in that case, I don't believe you should have the desire or the urge to move around. If you can talk to your manager, to your HR, to give you, different roles within the same organization. Okay. So what are the pros and cons of job hopping? So if we talk about the pros, if you are in a sales and a marketing position, it helps to get varied experience as long as your scope and responsibilities are growing. My advice to whoever number of students or employees I have talked to, that don't switch in a lateral position unless and until it's a bigger organization, or you are moving from, like, let's say, $10 million company to a $200 million company. It makes sense, because then you will have much more growth opportunities over there, even if you have the same title. But for a sales and marketing person, if you move around, you get an experience of different industries. You get experience of different strengths of different industries, so it helps you in building your profile. So don't just change for the sake of change, as I mentioned earlier, unless you are stuck in a very toxic environment or there are some personal issue. Stick to the organization, but move your roles. And if you want to move to a bigger and a better opportunity. In that case, your learning will improve, your profile will improve, your skill set will improve, and it will help you. For technical positions, I would say that if it's difficult to move to a different industry, because let's say if you are in a research environment in a paint industry, then it's difficult for you to go and move to a FMCG industry in a technical position. But you can move in the same industries. Like if you're working for Toyota, you can move to Honda. Or now, as you see, Kia and Hyundai have just recently set up their plants. From what I know, a majority of workforce at Kia has moved from Indus Motors, and majority of workforce in Hyundai has moved from Honda Motors. So a lot of shifting within the same industry, but that definitely is a big benefit for the company as well as for the employees who have been, working at the same company for a long period of time. Okay, what are the negatives of job hopping? Obviously, if you move to a new company, it's a fresh start, and it takes time to learn about the culture and the systems of the company. I mean, it takes time to build up the relationships, because networking is very important in a, especially in these days when we have matrix organizations. Even if you are in supply chain, it's very important for you to have a good networking in technical, in sales, in production, because those are your key stakeholders with whom you have to work day in and day out. But if you are new into a company, it takes time for you to build those relationships. And if the company is going through a tough time, like currently we see, we had this unpredictable COVID situation. A lot of companies have to let go employees, and in that case, usually the persons who are the new entrants usually are the targets. I would say, because they have less experience, less loyalty to the company, and their knowledge is also limited about the company. Yes, they might have experience about the external industry, but it depends what are the requirements of that company. So these are some of the negatives. So overall, if I talk about job hopping, it helps as long as it is up the chain or to a bigger and a better organization. I can tell you my personal example, that when I moved to Pakistan, my first job, as I mentioned, was with Descon Engineering. And I usually tell my employees right over here when I joined DIC that in Descon Engineering gave me a very good platform to have inroads into the industrial sector of Pakistan, because I'm a mechanical engineer, although with an MBA. I wanted to stay in B2B environment. So for me, it was very important to build connections, to build contacts in the industrial sector. And Descon being a EPC contractor, they had projects in oil and gas, in power, in water, in infrastructure. So, excuse me. So I had an opportunity to make contacts into all of these segments. So it gave me a very good, idea about the industrial sector of Pakistan. When I joined Bueller, I was their first employee in Pakistan, and they were earlier working through agents. So I have to build a network and increase sales for the companies. So for 5 years, I had a very, very thorough, experience of hardcore sales. And it was one of the most challenging, but also most interesting time in my career. So it gave me a good idea about hardcore sales. Then when I moved to ExxonMobil, I was a business manager over there, heading a business unit. But ExxonMobil had very strong controls and systems due to their legacy of ICI days. So that experience helped me in, to be strong in systems, to be strong with procedures, with controls, which is very, very important for a growing organization, because I did not have that experience at all with Bueller, because I was their first employee. I have to build up everything from scratch. So we were more focused on sales and we were less focused on systems and controls. So when I was with ExxonMobil, these systems and controls helped me in building my profile. And I think based on all of those traits which I built up throughout my professional life here in Pakistan, DIC made me an offer. It was a relevant industry as well, because printing inks is very similar to paints. But the overall experience over the last 10 years, I think made me a strong candidate to be chosen as the Chief Operating Officer, and now subsequently the Chief Executive Officer of the company as well. So if you are switching, no matter how frustrated you are, make a conscious decision. If you are fed up, frustrated at your current position or your current job, the other place can be even worse. So do not make a change just because you want to make a change. You're stuck. Make a conscious decision. Even if you are having a tough time in your current organization, wait. And good opportunity, if you believe in your professional skills, in your qualification, good opportunity will definitely come your way. And then build a network within your industry, so hiring managers would know where you are placed, what your responsibilities are. I would give you an example that in ExxonMobil, I had to hire a national sales manager, and we could not find a suitable candidate. So I know a person who had 7 years of experience of sales experience in Engro, and I used to meet him at golf. So we had a common interest of golf, and he was, confident enough to get acquainted with me and tell me about what he was doing, what his roles and responsibilities are. So suddenly it clicked to my mind that why shouldn't we ask him to interview for this position? So we shortlisted him. He got selected for the interview. I was not involved in the final selection, but subsequently he was selected for that position. But his networking skills helped him at least get his foot into the door. So please do focus on networking and building relationships, because in the long run these things definitely help. So with this, I came to conclusion of my presentation, and I hope you guys learned some valuable inputs, and this will help you in your interviewing process, or if you are planning to switch your careers, it will help you. Now I open the floor for questions, but one thing which I've also mentioned to the CSO department, that I'm also available to have one-to-one sessions on phone, on Zoom, so CSO can arrange that as well. This is one of my passion, something I want to do, something I'm doing already with Love Center of Entrepreneurship and some other universities, and I would continue doing that over here as well as in the need arises. So enough from me. Please, any questions, I'm open.
Thank you, Ismail Saab. Thank you for the wonderful talk. Students, Ismail Saab is available. If you have any questions, any queries, this is an excellent opportunity to ask the question. Definitely जो है वो बहुत सारी queries होती हैं, बहुत सारे questions होते हैं because you people are now in your, you can directly ask the question, Aisha Naeem.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for your talk. And I have a question that if I'm in a job in an industry that I do not want to proceed in, and I do not want to be associated with in like 2 years down the line, what is the right way to switch? Should I mention it on my CV, and should I like, I know that this is the start of my career and it is better to switch now than to like delay it. So what do you suggest?
Okay, so from what I understand, your question, let me repeat it, is that you are working somewhere and you are not very excited about this organization, and now you want to switch. You are asking to put this in your resume or not. So my my recommendation to you will be there is no harm in highlighting this in your interview that you believe this industry is not a good fit for you, but do not mention it in your resume because that will probably not be a good idea. But if people ask you why do you want to switch, you, since this is the start of your career, you can tell that initially I opted for this position, but this industry is totally something where I don't see myself building my career. So that is one of the reasons why I want to switch. And if you want advice on how to put this in your resume, you can send it to me directly, or you can send it to CSO department and they can send it to me, and I can give you some suggestions there as well.
Sure, thanks a lot. I will do that. I do have mentioned the work that I have done here on my CV. So I will
So
send
that's,
it.
yeah, that's good enough if you have mentioned your experience. That is something you can highlight as well, that despite the fact that this industry does not suit your interests, you still have contributed to it. So that will definitely leave a very positive impression on the interviewer.
Okay, thanks.
Any more questions? सर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है इस्माइल साहब.
Sure.
मेरी आवाज आपको क्लियर आ रही है? किसी किस्म की कोई नॉइस तो नहीं आ रही है मेरे माइक के अंदर? सर आपका म्यूट हो गया है.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
इस्माइल साहब मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि व्हाट इज द बेस्ट टाइम टू स्विच योर जॉब? अब मार्केट के अंदर व्हाट आई हैव सीन के एक्सपर्ट्स कहते हैं कि एटलीस्ट 3 years यू शुड वर्क इन द सेम कंपनी, और उसके बाद जो है यू कैन स्विच योर जॉब फॉर बेटर अपॉर्चुनिटी, for the improvement of your skill set, for new learning that will somehow help you in career progression. Because at times ये होता है कि you are stuck up with the same opportunities. So what do you suggest कि what is the best time and how to go about it?
जी बिल्कुल. Somehow I did mention about this slightly in my presentation as well, but your question is very relevant. As I mentioned, if this is your first job and you are in a good company and you like the industry, you basically have to make a decision within first 3 to 6 months. So if you decide, yes, this is something you want, this is a place where you can spend some time. My advice is that first job, at least stick there for 4 to 5 years, because that will help you in building a good base, because you are fresh, you are raw, because first year or so is just, spent on learning, on getting acquainted with people, on trying to figure out how things are done. So at least stay there for 4 to 5 years. But then I think in first 10 to 15 years, if you are switching after 3 to 4 years, that can be taken as a acceptable time frame. But as you grow and as you take more senior positions, then my advice would be to stay at least minimum at least 5 to 7 years. You should stay in one position. But within the first 10, 15 years of your career, if you are switching jobs, but as I mentioned in my presentation, move to a bigger and a better position. Don't just switch for the sake of switching. As I have mentioned to you, my case, whenever I have moved, I have taken a bigger, and at least in my opinion, a better opportunity. And that has helped me to grow. So move to a bigger and better opportunity. If you are not getting it, just wait, hang in there. I'm sure if you have the right skill set, something good will come your way.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I have a question.
Sure. Wa alaikum assalam.
Firstly, thank you for doing this. I think it's important for university students to be able to have an idea of how they should approach an interview, because we're not often taught that. So my question is, most of us here are undergraduate students who haven't had a job before. So I'm assuming you've interviewed quite a lot of undergraduate students, and I have heard that sometimes they can come off as a bit entitled. But what would you like? What are some values or some aspects of undergraduate students that should be present in an interview? I think if we cannot bring that much experience to the table, what is something that we should be bringing?
Good question, Mashal. Yes, you're right. I have interviewed a lot of undergraduate students. In fact, when I was with Bueller, the Swiss company, I was involved in building the entire team. So I was interviewing a lot of fresh graduates from engineering schools, from business schools. You are absolutely right. At that point, you don't have a lot of experience, in fact, no experience under your belt. What you have is your education, your qualification, your grades, and to some extent your projects. But as I mentioned, if you have made this far to the interview, you are already one of the shortlisted candidates. So the company is interested in you. They are happy with your qualifications, with your projects, with the grades you have achieved. So at that point, very, very important, as I mentioned in my presentation as well, is to show interest in the company. And one way to show interest is if you have done your research on the company. I can tell you, if I'm in an interview and I ask someone, and these are fresh graduates, and sometimes they just either no one has told them, or they just believe that it's not important, that they haven't even opened the website of the company. So that's right away is a no-no for me. And by opening the website, it doesn't mean that you just look at the website and close it. Know a little bit about the company. Know about what market they are serving, what are their key products. If it's a finance-related job, then know about their growth, their return on sales, their top line, their bottom line. If they are a public listed company, all these numbers are available on the SCCP website. So show some interest, show some, energy, excitement. And for me, that's a, right away hammer on the head. If the students have done this much and they have the right qualification, I would take them in right away. But if you or the student hasn't even taken up time to, know the basics about the company, then that's a big, big deal breaker for me. I hope that answers your question.
Hi, thank you so much. It does. It does. Thank you.
So most of the students, Amir, here are undergraduates who are just about to graduate or have graduated.
So most of them are undergraduates, and all of them are expected to graduate next year by June 2021, inshallah.
Okay.
Any more questions, students?
I have a question.
Ji, sure.
Sir, as you are mentioning that a student with the right qualification and the right attitude can get into the job market like comparatively easily than the others. So in my case, I have a econ pol degree, and I'm not interested in pursuing a career either in economics or something related to pol sci. But I am interested in marketing or going to other, uh, going to a developmental sector, but mainly marketing. So what's the right attitude to, look for a job, because I don't have much experience at this time. Even in marketing, I have relevant society experience, but I don't have any formal internship in marketing or any sort of, job experience related to that. So what's the right approach to look for a job in marketing without a marketing degree?
That's a very, very common situation. Azka, I believe is your name.
Yeah.
But it's something not very uncommon. One advice would be, yes, you have economics and pol sci major. Is what prevented you from shifting to major or at least a minor where you can have some marketing related courses. But I will not get into that. I guess you are about to graduate. This is something which if you have thought through at that time might have helped you. But what you can do is, if you are if you are already involved in groups related to marketing, the other thing is you can have projects because obviously in undergrad, even in grad, students have to do a lot of projects. So focus on projects or select projects which are related to marketing activities, because that will definitely help you in getting the right position. Because yes, people or students do their BBAs and their major or their concentration is marketing, so preference is usually given to them. But for economics major, it's not unlikely that you can get into marketing, because in marketing, a lot of other soft skills are also required, and analytical skills are required. So if you are good in communication, if you're good in presentations, you can highlight that in your resume. And then in marketing, especially in B2B, even in B2C environment, analytical skills are very, very important. So you have to collect a lot of market information. You have to plot it, you have to chart it, you have to dissect it, you have to analyze it. So you can also highlight your analytical skills in your resume, or do some projects related where your analytical skills are, nurtured. So these are some of the things which you can highlight in your resume when you are applying for a marketing position. Yes, you don't have a educational degree or maybe concentration in marketing, but if you highlight your communication skills, your presentation skills, and your analytical skills, and that you are an extrovert person, you like to meet people and you like to know about different industries, then these are the skills which you can highlight, which will help you in getting a marketing related position.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Students, any more questions? कोई भी अगर आपकी queries हो, कोई भी अगर आपके questions हो regarding the topic.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
जी, वालेकुम अस्सलाम.
Sir, I was yes, sir. Sir, I was confused. Like, what are the attributes that are usually expected from a student who's about to graduate when when a manager is considering a student to be shortlisted for an interview? And what if one were not like involved in a lot of co-curricular activities where he could show up, where he could like hone on in his interpersonal skills? So would that put someone at a disadvantage if they were to apply for a job?
Mustafa, it depends on what kind of a job you are applying to. So if you are not involved in a lot of external activities, then that might put you in a disadvantage where people's skills are required. But if you are applying for let's say a finance or an accounting role, then you are not at a disadvantage because accounting is more of a office related job where you have to deal with numbers a lot. So it depends on what kind of a position you are applying for. Yes, your personality traits will lean or make a bias in the mind of interviewer as to what kind of a personality you have and what kind of a position you will be a good fit for. Because as I mentioned, see, even for an interviewer is a very short span of time in which he has to make a decision. So if the position requires a lot of people handling and interpersonal skills, then if you highlight yourself or if you classify yourself as someone who's not very keen on this, then yes, you will be at a disadvantage. But if a position is related to office related job, as I mentioned, an accounting position or a finance related position, then that will not be a disadvantage. But as I think in one of the slides I mentioned your strengths and weaknesses. There is no harm in highlighting your weaknesses. Yes, I think one point which I forgot to mention. There is no harm in highlighting your weakness as long as you also have a plan on what you are doing to fix it. So if the interviewer asks you that what is your weakness, you tell him that okay, this is my weakness, but you give him an answer right away that this is what you are doing to improve on your weakness, then that will definitely give a good impression about your personality to the interviewer.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any more questions, students? Or well, I guess Ismail Saab, that's it. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time out. The session was excellent. It was very helpful for everyone, especially the students. And I'm sure कि students जो next year जो हमारे graduate कर रहे हैं, उनके पास काफ़ी पॉजिटिव किस्म की इंफॉर्मेशन आई होगी कि जी हाउ टू हैंडल द इंटरव्यूज और अपने आप को पहले से जो है वो प्रिपेयर रखें, बिकॉज दैट इज़ वन ऑफ द कंसर्न ऑफ द इंटरव्यूअर के स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं विदाउट प्रिपरेशन विदाउट विजिटिंग वेबसाइट वो आते हैं, उनको उस चीज़ों के बारे में नहीं पता होता कि व्हाट टू से एंड हाउ टू से. बट आई एम श्योर कि इस सेशन के बाद काफ़ी हद तक स्टूडेंट्स की जो कन्फ्यूजन है वो सॉर्ट आउट हो जाएंगे.
Great, G. It's my pleasure. And as I mentioned, if you are free to share my email with the students as well if they want advice on their resume or if they have an interview next week and if they want to prepare for it. I know you, CSO, is doing an excellent job of helping them out, but if they want some advice from myself as well, I'm always available. So it's my pleasure, and I'm looking forward to help in future as well in any way I can. So thank you for organizing this and arranging this.
Thank you very much. And thank you, students, for taking time out and attending.
Thank you so
Ismail
much.
sir, thank you very much for sparing time. And really, the session was much fruitful and much beneficial for the students. And I'm sure that it would help them to develop their learning curve. And we look forward to have such sessions in future also.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Allah Hafiz, everyone.
Thank you.
Hafiz.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.